Very good gamers, how are we? This is Games and Chill, and today we are in a new video in the legendary build, and just today, good timing starts dancing around here at MUALANI. At MUALANI'S legendary build of the Sharped Horseman, that of the big numbers, that of the million with the ulti that has already made many people with MUALANI. We'll see a lot of details, everything we've learned so far. The main core of your team, how important is your set and the secondary sets, because it is very complicated to have the set. On the first day, and I saved almost 40 moons on this account, which is my free-to-play account. And the items are very bad, even if you see. When is the maximum? I have been able to do with talents 1, because today I cannot grow until tomorrow. The domain spoiler, I've already put more than 200,000 for normal attack with talents to 1, so gentlemen, I don't know what's going to happen. When tomorrow brings up the talents, and above all, how is the most consistent current way in rotation to play MUALANI since now? It's kind of technical equipment, especially not yet the final ones, and this build will surely have 1 or 2 updates. After Mavuika, so for now is the way to get the maximum performance with the conditions we now have at 8. NATLAN's beginning and early days. So leave a good like, a good ulti of Bennett, subscriber, leave a good comment for the algorithm. Thanks for enjoying and watching the channel. Remember, get like I'm watching you. There it is. Thank you very much. It doesn't cost you anything. It's totally free. It's gone a lot. Recommends us. Recommends the video. You can see more people. We grow up and the entire channel team, and I will be very grateful. So now we are going with MUALANI'S legendary build. Well, she's a carry in the field. She's NATLAN's best mount today. You hit the elemental, and all this is amazing. Besides, with the Lucer, you are practically permanently. The jump is quite high, and the sprint is very good. It allows you to travel super short distances in very little time. And as I say, look at the loose thing that being in NATLAN makes a wall. This mount, aside from the bar on the left, that MUA is already empty, as you are seeing here, what you do is loose. That is above life, the same as Genshin, with which wonderful is the best mount currently of the whole game. What are you talking about out there, that there's probably flying mounts in the future and everything else? Yeah, but MUALANI right now is the best frame in the game for anyone who has it. Well, the talents are 1, 10, 10 for you to like, or 1, 10, 8, because the ulti is a great nuke that has potential not only to reach 1 million but to reach 2 million. In fact, with all the active passives and a team made to nuke here, as you already know, there is showcase and entertainment and content with very large numbers, but on a normal basis. Of a standard and solid base team also has the potential to reach 1 million with this ulti is crazy, and then fair. Elementary has a lot to comment on, but it is very easy to summarize. Because if we put here, look on screen, the much text of Genshin. Basically, to start the elemental without having the loose little one, i.e. in combat in Abyss, will have basically 60 points, which is that which is there in summary, allows you to be about 6 seconds in the field, and you go. The ulti has 6 seconds of cooldown also, with which, as you see, there are the cooldowns running down to the right. There's an ascension talent that when you're going to hit, you is going to give you 2 cool balloon fish approach you like, for example. The little lion that has gaming with its ulti, and each balloon fish gives you 20 more points of looseness. That equals almost 2 seconds more or less, with what in the end MUALANI as long as you can. Being contriburando in the field is 10 seconds, and this is very interesting to comment on by the following. MUALANI max its damage with the bites when you have 3 passives of the little fish that is here in this bar to the left. And we'll be putting there editors of background gameplay while I fill the fish, and when you have 3 little fish you bite with it, maximum scaling and damage depth. It is worth filling all 3 fish, and the actual calculation is that when you mark a single enemy, by the speed of filling the fish you'll be able to put 1 ulti and 3 bites to 1 enemy, i.e. MUALANI. He really has a potential against an enemy to put him in as a blow of the ulti with 1 million. And then with an optimal team, 3 vaporized of well over 500,000, this will become much simpler and standard with future teams with characters that do not yet exist. For example, Shylon, that the kid is already known because there is beta, and currently Shylon is better than Kazuha. Its must-pull is the best Geo character in history, and it seems so broken that it's unreal, plus it's healer Geo and Derise. Phil? All this stuff you're telling me, I'm gonna make a video apart from Shilonen, so wait for him and let them have the comment too. I want the Shylon video to let me know to do it, and the thing is that obviously it will improve Kachino here. in this slot of this team, as it will allow you to activate the NATLAN set of supports that is spectacularly powerful. This will make MUALANI improve many teams and much their damage generally, but here comes to explain the other part of the skill. Elemental, which is very important when you play against several enemies. You can mark several enemies and fill them much more. Fast Fish, with which against 2 enemies you have the potential to make 5 bites, and even against 3 enemies you have the potential to get to 6 bites, but playing very well, very technical. You already know the subject of the squid in Genshin. People don't usually play perfect, which means you're gonna stick 3 bites against an enemy and 3 enemies. 5 against 2 enemies, 4 maybe. Now that's very simple, and you're on the field about not just 10 with the floppy. But the time spent on ulti, that is 1.5 seconds, a little more, as the characters are in field about 11 seconds. And about half with MUALANI this, because I explain it, because if you look, I have told you the whole subject, the elementary ability, and it doesn't have much more mystery. And besides, MUALANI is not only a target, MUALANI hits quite interestingly against several enemies, because when you mark several enemies and throw the bite and are affected by pyro by burn, you will throw a torpedo. That will do shock bite-like damage to the 3 enemies or 2 that are marked. But when there are 3 or more, enemy damage will be reduced a little bit. The damage that is reduced when you hit more than 1 enemy, more than 2, or more than 3 is not very small what is reduced, and you will continue to be able to do when you are dead and well with the enemy. Beatus, and besides that you will make more bites with which the damage is compensated in the end. Its elementary ability has no more. Despite being a lot of text, it's easy to explain. Waiting time for the 1.8 second bite squad, the dot limit 60, but you're going to regenerate 20 and 20 with the Ascension talent that's here, and cooldown 6 seconds is very little to allow you to stay in open field. Now the ulti cost of 60 is a medium cost with the teams I have played. Thinking I could generate a lot of energy, and with a Favonius, even that, it's this computer that you saw on screen that I'll talk about. In this video I wear Kachina Favonius, and still has cost me with the recharge that I have perma ulti, with which I have tried. These 123 that I thought gave me enough, but I would say 35 to have ulti perma with MUALANI. The cooldown of the ulti are 15, with which the rotation of MUALANI is 15 seconds. The recount will have 15, and if the baby already knows the kid how he spoke, before it has 15, that means 15 drop rotations like those of Alecchino Fiorina Kazuha Velat, that are another damn level. And the ulti has no more. As you see, it has very little text, and it is a blow directed, in theory, is to a single enemy, and it is a blow that has the potential to make 1.5 million, because it has another talent that gives you more damage in proportion to your maximum life, so that this hit can have a maximum of 10 talent, more than 150% of MUALANI's life. Being able to reach 50-60,000 with Chiron in C2, or with Iron consonants, probably between 40 and 44,000 of life, that is to say A. Madness. The damage of the ulti of MUALANI first talent of Ascension is a single hit, has no more first talent of Ascension. As I explained earlier, says hitting enemy with the biting squallow is an area created a PCI balloon near the PT. Balloon recovers 20 noctambulism points. You can activate 2 PCI balloons this way, because the rotation basically has 60, that is like 6 seconds, and the PCI balloons give you then 20, that are like 2 seconds, with which in the end you have 100 that are as 10 seconds in field, basically more. The time of the ulti as 11.5 seconds in field of MUALANI. Very easy according to the screen that is like an Aztec Bolus or Maya. Gets a load of tide symbol that lasts 20 seconds and put 3 seconds. Times with 3 loads gives you 45% damage of your extra maximum life to your ulti can accumulate. This means that maybe you cannot throw the ulti in the first rotation, and the second rotation, throw the ulti with 3 loads, because 3 loads. Because if you don't, you're going to let 2 loads per rotation activate instead of just 1 like that. In summary, I'll make a video of, if not in you, and you'll be able to activate so much the NATLAN set that it's a brutal bufo. Now I'm talking about it because it's related, and it's build, and it's build. That'll make you maybe with, if not in first rotation, you just put the loaded ones in, but the shark bites. But then you'll throw the ulti with 3 loads in the second rotation at first, and then you'll put 1 million in a normal way, and then talent simply that of typical materials of NATLAN, as well as Kachina and Quinich, and that of changing the mount too. Enter with MUALANI, easy. No constellations. The first makes your first bite after throwing the ulti, or enter in rotation. Target 66% of the maximum life as extra damage, i.e. your cone does first, your ulti has nothing to do with the cone. Boo. Start the Genshin with the ulti, then you'll make 1,000,000 nuke if you have everything well built, and then your cone will do. That the first bite targets another spectacular hit, and maybe also make 1,000,000 with which the second and third bite. With the cone will not be so important, but perhaps will be to eliminate extra enemies if there are 2 or 3 enemies. A room of thee. Abyss is more damage to the first bite that sticks. Each rotation is a very senseless damage to the first bite, and it's just the first bite of 3 bites you make against an enemy, or 4 or 5 against the 3 enemies, and then... Aside to finish the cone, there is a second passive that makes you consume flow 30% slower for open world to explore. It's basically not very complicated, but half scan ease, the other half is more damage the first C2 bite when entering. In a state of Noctambula Blessing, you get 2 loads of Amariel energy, and by collecting the pissy balloon, that is to say twice by Rotata and extra charge, this makes you get the 3 loads faster all the time with MUALANI'S, so you can. I mean, you go from 3 to 5 against an enemy. I mean, 5 or 4 against 2 to get to 6, and against 3 with this passive. Maybe you can get to 7. Beatus is interesting. It is very strong because if the team you are carrying a strong core of burn where you do not lose the burn everything will vaporize well is the character that less hydro applies the game, so you never steal or apply hydro. Or that you don't vaporize with his blows is strong. The 0 of MUALANI has not yet tested many people this, but I have a hunch that the real potential of MUALANI Techero is to nuke the enemy without even having to reach the 3rd bite with the A, which this is a C3 and 5 elementary, and last 3 C4, basically when picking up a balloon petty, i.e. twice, by good rotation, and earns 8 points of elemental energy twice, with which you earn like 16 of energy costs 60 as 44. Of course that will be much lower, and with 125 you will have perma ulti. And apart it says that increases 75% the damage inflicted with the T. Aquasplosive missile. And that's the ulti, which means that literally the C4 is my mother to get you 2,000,000, 3,000,000. With the ulti and the chicks is very easy because the passive of the cone of a bite, a brutal scaling makes all the bites. Have the scaling of the cone that is not only the first bite and then not but all that you do if you contain the C2E. Because you can reach 6 bites even against several enemies that all have the extended damage of the cone, with which I'd say that MUALANI is one of the most potential characters to have the best chicks in the game. You know what I've done. Some cheese tirella's explanations, cheese comparisons. MUALANI has a potential jinx of the best game if you vaporize. All the punches and punches 6 times 1,000,000 and an ulti of 3,000,000 when you're very well, not with chicks teams very powerless is a nonsense. Truth seems to me very crazy, but clear NATLAN is the nation of power creep. Also sets would recommend you 2 sets, that is your set as you see it gives you 15 damage inflicted 2 pieces and 40 probability 4 pieces. There is nothing better than this, but if you don't have his full set and you want to play it, the first day a Heart of the Depths 15% hydro 2 pieces. 35 years normal attack 4 pieces is very interesting, so it will go through the Heart of the Depths that are reliquary, but of course bring her full set. That she is must come to lead life on the watch because she scales with life all her hydro damage to the chalice and hull. Damage critical here is a very important point to explain, and is that if you have your own weapon and you have perfect items that gives it a lot, you can play a Helmet of Life just like on a billet like that. Life helmet as a new billet to weather proportion cap recharge, but have a lot more life to take it to the sky. Maximizing your damage. Life helmets with proportion capio will do much more damage than a critical probability damage helmet. But here it happens to a lot of people the big problem that this one will say to, because I look for a Helmet of Life, not the Helmet of Life. It's only if you're left with the proportion. If with the included life helmet you already have 70 probability counting the set, and someone 240 or more 250 damage. If including the helmet you have that critical ratio, then okay, you did well and applied correctly. The Helmet of Life. If a Helmet of Life has 70 probability 200 damage, badly takes that Helmet of Life and puts a helmet critical damage. Basically, and the substat critical proportion recharges up to 135 as I know, and very important percentage. life percentage. Not flat that I always explain, and people think the flat is good, but not good weapons. The Symphony is very good. But the Bufos they need are 2 of the 3. The Bufo attack does not use it, of course, because it goes alive, with which when your normal attack target 90,000, you know that activated the bad Bufo. But when you target 140 or 200,000, as my MUALANI talents one has come to do, is that the Bufo is activated good. Is an inconsistent weapon as in all guides. 2 points. Point number 1. I'll tell you the weapons free to play totally that you can best come to pay to win the 1 or 2. Better, but as I always remind you, if you want a broken down list of weapons is down here in the summarized build. Thanks for the support on that new platform where I upload guides as a web page as a Reddito. Has been summarized very easy to see at a glance and not to be at the best by checking out a 40-minute will, and you're in a hurry for a trip. Something fast, a consultation, peepipa. I know I put this to you because here is the build and the guide summarized intacter here below. Basically with weapons, I would like to summarize that a weapon free to play very good for MUALANI, but it costs more to reach proportions. Criticism, or you would have to have a helmet critical damage. Yes, or yes is the weapon of the current forge. There are 2 weapons free to play in NATLAN. One that gives you at the event, that is a weapon that gives you life and passive, gives like a hit that hurts an area, and the weapon of the forge, well, the one of the event. The free to play, the one of doing the event. And even that one is terrible, that you do not play the one of the weapon of the weapon. Forging NATLAN de MUALANI is a weapon that passive gives you that for every 1,000 lifetime you get more harm in normal attacks. And I think R5 gives you a joke. In fact, I think R5 gets to give you 32% damage normal attacks. And in its stat, gives you more life percent, with which is a very good weapon if you manage with items to weather the critical proportion. The recharge is the best weapon free to play along with the Symphony. The Symphony is risky, and apart from the first problem I told you to come out, the attack Bufo that doesn't make you useless, has a second problem, and is that there is a combo to take to the team, as explained. And that combo basically makes the Kachina set go live, and this one gives us 40 bonus elemental damage. MUALANI, if you do it correctly, is a very important set that can only activate by Kachina and in the future supports of NATLAN Dixilong in 5.1, and that way calls Wicca, etc. Not this set of 40 of elementary year that will add to MUALANI. It only activates if, as Alani, you enter the field as you see it, just activates the passive that you have seen on the screen, and you will be zaying again in case everyone will put consumption again, and I, when entering, lose the passive of the Symphony. But I must start writing with MUALANI to apply Hydro, then enter with Kachina to make a reaction with that Hydro to activate it. The set, and then already, because as you see in this team, Nahida or Dehaya, but there could perfectly be because Emily instead of Nashida and Xiangling Zoma or Chinzan instead of Dehaya. I will now talk about it because it has also become popular to say that Chinzan works as an Alani, and you know, and when you talk about characters not so good because there are many impressions, a lot of engagement, many clicks in general on the networks, and people use that click theme will iterate a little bit to the most pocho characters of the Genshin so that maybe he has a little more visitors. The reality is that Chinzan doesn't do it better, neither that Zoma nor that Lini does, but it's a good choice at that Pyro position on MUALANI's team. Isn't going to refuse, but it's no better than the other characters that we already have. Then the problem of Symphony is that you see me enter with MUALANI to be able to enter Hydro to make a reaction, a crystallized Hydro with Kachina to activate the support set of NATLAN, which is very good. But if he wears a Symphony, he misses the Symphony's Bufo and has a 30-second cooldown with which the Symphony has a pair. Then the Symphony is not bad, the weapon that has been said free to play of the Forge of NATLAN that gives you such normal damage. Is more consistent, but with the optimal Bufo is worse than the now 5-star Symphony would recommend you mainly. Of course, his weapon that is best in slot, Neuvillette's gun, isn't bad, but you don't get loaded, but you take advantage of life. And you take advantage of the critical 88 years with which the Neuvillette weapon is not bad for MUALANI truth, and then the Escaramuche weapon gives you 44 years critical, and gives you damage normal attacks, which is what really use all the MUALANI cases with which the 5-star Escaramuche weapon for MUALANI is not bad. And finally, to close the weapons apart from, as I told you, Tactor, that you have much more slip. The issue of weapons would not generally recommend weapons of probability because MUALANI, when climbing level as you see on screen scale with probability, there you have it. But it is that apart from being the 40 probability with the fate, which MUALANI doing nothing is going to spare you, the probability just looking for a critical damage. So if someone asks me for example by the Symphony that is by the lost prayer of the permanent banner is not good because you will spare you probability. But if you ask me, for example, about Ye's axiom, Even if you don't take advantage of the base attack or the passive attack of that weapon, you will take advantage of the 66th critical year of Ye Axiom Kagura. Then more or less by that criterion you already understand the weapons that we could play perfectly now. Stats: since being the 40th probability critical, she scales with probability and obviously we'll look for critical year weapons, or your critical year stat number 1 can overrun the ratio as well. That in the billet number 235 of recharge if you do not have C4. You have C4 125 of recharge, just nothing more, and from there with level 90 if you don't have hydro consonants. I think it'll be difficult for it to reach 40,000. I think you'll stay at 35-36 for sure. Capturing proportion and 35-135 recharge, this would surely allow us his weapon because his weapon gives him 20% life. And 88 years critical, but without his weapon you're not going to weather life, or if you have 40,000 lives you're not going to weather the critical ratio. Because you're missing the states of his weapon, so you have to stay close enough, and now the teams will recommend you mainly. 2 teams that are currently the most consistent of MUALANI team number 1. What you are seeing on screen and variant screen. Many here have asked me why not, instead of Kachina you put a Jin for the green shadow or a Kazuha for the shade. Green basically because the green shade Bufo, both the low and the elemental bonus, for example Kazuha, lasts 10 seconds. And you to stick it to the hydro you have to go in like Alani. To put hydro back to change the anemo here activates the passive meter. The green shadow that only lasts 10 seconds, and in those 10 seconds you have to switch to Pyro and Dendro to throw elemental. Ulti to activate the burn, with which when you enter the field, the Bufos you have 5 seconds only, with which the Wa. You will take advantage of the first ulti and the first normal, but not with the rest of the green shade combo currently as Alani is. We'll see in the future 1,000 times better to put Kachina like this last slot instead of a green shadow. Or even put a Candace or Yunjin here in this last slot, because what they give you is consistent and cooldown that. Favonius is, like I said, activate this set, that the Bufo the set lasts 20 seconds, 40% of elemental bonus to the hydro, and those 20 seconds gives you time to throw away the rest of ultis, and stop Nahida so that Molani takes advantage of the 11 seconds of Bufo, still without losing them as the green shadow. So this computer that you see on screen is one of those that I recommend variancy. Instead of Nahida you can play Emily, and is spectacularly powerful Emily also, instead of letting you play Xiang Lin, but it depends on a very strong defensive support. You can play Zoma instead of quitting, and you can play Chingin instead of Fa. Leave in this position to apply the burn on the inside, and as I said, instead of Kachina you can play Candace, who is very well. For hydro consonants you can play Yunjin here too. I think something else we talked about live, but it main in this last slot is Kachina, Candace, Yunjina, and you could play double inside, i.e. you could play the team, and on screen with Molani, Nahida, and the Pyro, and you could play here Emily last, and play Emily, Nahida, let Molani and plays consonants inside with damage inside the field very high to keep the burn, and Molani in the field is taking advantage of Fa. The Nahida Bufo the consonants within. Basically, this is the first variant of equipment, i.e. a core of burn, re a core of burn. Li, I forgot, instead of Kachina, you could play Zhongli, but I recommend more to Chinese for the theme of Bufo activation. And the NATLAN bonus, so Zhongli in this last slot, can also be played in this variant of second variant teams. Molani teams is a team a little more whale, and it depends on Baiju you won't have, but you can play Molani. Xiangling Furina and Baiju is a team where Furina does not steal you vaporized. You have hydro consonants, you have burn. A powerful healer to counter and activate Furina, who is Baiju in this case, and you have the harm inflicted on Furina bonus for Molani to benefit even if you have Furina C2. And here you have spectacular damage apart from here as Molani. No Baiuju attack any case will go Dragon Hunter will go alone, and only Amber prototype to make more healing ticks. With the Amber to activate more Furina claws, that is the other variant of equipment, that there does depend on Xiangling, and it would be that Molani, Xiangling, Furina, Baiju, and you have another team in Molani technically. If you do well vaporize everything, and you gives the time because Xiangling is the last thing that strips, has 14 seconds of Pyro, with which Molani that has 11 seconds going. To take advantage of the entire lingo Xiang Pyro, to vaporize basically So this is the legendary MUALANI build with everything. What we have been able to learn so far, the pros cons is inconsistent, so that lying to us can be noticed that still. That one more character was missing to do the best, or as happened to Sino and Tignari before the arrival of Nahida. Inzumeru is normal, so this build will surely have updated you later, but for now, the most consistent. That more you can get out of performance in the game, and all the tips and details for you to do as best you can are in R. This build, a little bit more already, you know, to leave a good like a good, to subscribe, you leave a good comment for the algorithm. Thanks for enjoying and watching the video. The channel doesn't cost you anything, is free.